Tonight, Prime Minister Carney heads to Washington to meet with U.S. President Donald Trump. Family and friends of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls gather to mark Red Dress Day. And we meet the class of 2025 for the Riders Plaza of Honor.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Monday, May 5th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. I'm Ethan Williams. Thank you for joining us. Prime Minister Mark Carney is getting ready for Tuesday's high-stakes meeting with Donald Trump. It's the first official trip to the White House after the Liberals won last week's election. Kate McKenna reports.
Prime Minister Mark Carney on his way to meet with the president. It's his first big test since winning the election.
He's coming to see me. I'm not sure what he wants to see me about, but I guess he wants to make a deal.
In an interview that aired Sunday, U.S. President Donald Trump doubled down on his rhetoric that Canada would be better off as an American state.
When I look down at that without that artificial line that was drawn with a ruler many years ago, it was just an artificial line, goes straight across. You don't even realize what a beautiful country it would be.
Carney was elected in part to deal with Trump's repeated threats of tariffs and annexation.
Look, I go there with the expectation of constructive, difficult, but constructive discussions. That's the spirit of the conversations that the president and I had.
Well, I actually think there's a real opportunity for a U.S.-Canada reset here. And what I mean by that is tensions were clearly at an all-time high with former Prime Minister Trudeau. The relationship seemed to have improved after Trudeau stepped down and Carney took over as Prime Minister.
The agenda includes turning the page and trying to smooth out the trade relationship between the countries.
We would all love to see, a stop to tariffs as they're continuing just to cause an immense amount of uncertainty, a chill, if not a freeze, across the business community. However, realistically and practically speaking, I think tomorrow is about a reset.
My hope and our hope is that this will be the continuation of a productive conversation and a productive relationship between our two countries.
Prime Minister Mark Carney has said he wants to negotiate a new economic and security relationship with the United States. Some cabinet ministers will also be joining him on his trip to Washington, and he's been clear in the past, Canada will never become the 51st state. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
A new petition is calling for a plebiscite on whether Saskatchewan should leave Canada. It was launched Friday by a pro-separation group, Grassroots United. The petition needs about 125,000 signatures in order for the government to accept it. So far, it has about 2,000. The provincial NDP is condemning the petition.
If the Premier and the Sask Party want to stop this conversation, they want to stop this discussion, there is a very easy off-ramp, and that's condemning Danielle Smith, condemning Unified Grassroots, and saying that they would vote to stay a part of this country.
In a statement, the Saskatchewan government said it does not support separation from Canada, but says it also doesn't support the, quote, status quo. It wants to work with the federal government to make Saskatchewan an energy superpower. And Western separation has been discussed for as long as Canada has been a country. Craig Baird is the host of the podcast Canadian History X. He joined the morning edition to discuss.
British Columbia looked at seceding back in the 1870s because they felt like the railroad they were promised not enough progress was being made on it. But in terms of Alberta and Saskatchewan, there was a brief little separatist movement in the 1930s that died away pretty quick, but it really started to get going in the 1970s and kind of just continued from that point. When you have something like social media amplifying a lot of voices and getting people to talk about certain things like separation, it's getting a lot more exposure than it would than, say, like letters to the editor or having these smaller parties back in the 1980s trying to convince people to vote for them. But even with that, Alberta, the vast majority have no intention or no desire to leave Canada. I would say upwards of 80-85% are not in favor of this. I've put up posts about being an Albertan and wanting to stay in Canada, and the vast majority of comments are from people who feel the exact same. But it's just a minority who is getting a lot of exposure, and it seems like they're much larger than they actually are.
Hundreds of people came out in Regina for a walk in honor of Red Dress Day. It's held every year to raise awareness for missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people in Canada. Sarah Onyango reports.
After a rain-soaked walk, students and community members gathered at Scott Collegiate to hear stories of the lives of missing Indigenous women. Amber Redmond was just 17 when she disappeared in 2005. Her remains were found 3 years later. Her mother says she wants people to know who Amber was.
If I can let one more person know what happened to her, that's my purpose.
While telling her daughter's story, the pain of those dealing with the same grief echoed through the room, but so did the strength of the solidarity from those experiencing the same loss.
So my heart goes out to the families that still have their loved ones missing. And my prayers are still with them every day.
This is the second time Scott Collegiate has held a Red Dress Day ceremony. It creates space for the community to reflect, learn, and stand together.
I think about Amber Redmond's family who shared their story today, and the profound impact it has when our students and our community hear stories like that. It deepens everyone's understanding, and empathy comes from that, and I think that's a really important piece. Developing allies for our Indigenous community is also very important.
Students wore traditional clothing, and some painted red handprints on their faces, a symbol of the lives lost and the voices that are still being unheard.
I want to send a message out to everybody who saw us walking, and even people here, that I support and stand with families.
She's here and she's walking with us, and she's just loving the moment of all the families, to let the families know you're not alone.
Yuzichkabi says she will continue to talk about her daughter as a way to keep her memory alive, and she hopes these gatherings will continue to bring support and healing to others in the community. Sarah Onyango, CBC News, Regina.
Well, it is already turning into a busy wildfire season in Saskatchewan. One community has already lost several homes in a fire that happened over the weekend. Scott Larson reports.
A wildfire at James Smith Cree Nation destroyed at least 3 homes and displaced dozens of people over the weekend. In a letter to the community, Chief Kirby Constant says the youth hall is open for people to gather and eat. The Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency says the blaze was sparked Friday night by human activity. A number of fire departments responded, including crews from Muscadet, Kinistino, Garden River, and Melfort. Kinistino Fire Chief Brennan Smith says the fire was moving rapidly toward homes.
We had properties on the south end of the fire that were being threatened, and we had multiple properties on the north end of the fire that were being threatened. So we split our crews up with 2 different pumpers and set up property protection at the south and the north end of the fire. Crews were able to get the fire under control, but the recent hot and dry weather has all of south and central Saskatchewan under extreme wildfire risk. Muscadet's volunteer fire chief says this is now the new normal.
Now with things that are happening in climate change, we're seeing a lot drier springs and lack of moisture. So it kind of turns the season as to when we start fighting these fires. And they seem to be a lot more aggressive.
There are currently 14 active fires in the province. The Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency says 12 are contained, 1 is being assessed, and 1 near Cumberland House is still considered out of control. Chief Constant says the Red Cross is on its way to James Smith to assess the situation. Constant says people should be cautious of potential fire hazards. That includes cigarettes, fireworks, and barbecues. Scott Larson, CBC News, Saskatoon.
And these hot, dry, and windy conditions have prompted fire bans in several parts of the province. The city of Prince Albert has declared a fire ban on all areas north of the North Saskatchewan River within city limits. That means no open fires are permitted. There are also fire bans in dozens of rural municipalities in west central Saskatchewan, from Meadow Lake all the way down to Saskatoon, as well as parts of eastern Saskatchewan east of Humboldt. The city of Regina will be adding fluoride to its water supply after all. It comes after a marathon session at City Council on Friday. Nearly 30 delegations spoke either for or against the issue. A motion put forward by one councillor had asked to postpone the city's 2021 decision to add fluoride to the city's water supply. They wanted more studies to conclude that there are no negative health effects associated with fluoridation. But in the end, council voted against that motion 7-3. That means fluoridation will happen once the Buffalo Pound Water Treatment Plant is upgraded. That is expected to be completed by next March. Well, finally, I know some people are probably breathing a bit of a sigh of relief seeing some rain in our province Monday morning. Most of it now, however, is gone. We know we need more of it for sure. It doesn't look like that is going to be the case, though. Weather specialist Helena Mahalik says a return to the sun and the heat is coming. She'll have the details in her full forecast after the break. An Ontario couple celebrating a milestone birthday says they were left stranded and out thousands of dollars after their Air Canada travel credit was stolen and used to buy a luxury flight for someone they don't know. And as Go Public's Rosa Marcatelli explains, the airline is blaming them for the fraud.
We went hiking and
Bill and Sandra Barlow were celebrating Bill's 75th birthday with a trip to South and Central America. But 2 days before their flight home, they discovered someone had canceled their flights, and the credit was used to book a flight to Tokyo for a complete stranger.
Absolutely flabbergasted. How does something like that happen?
The credit was stolen from their Air Canada wallet, a digital account set up by the airline. The couple says they've never used or heard of, but the airline blames them.
They said basically, sorry, you should look after your Air Canada wallet, something I didn't even know I had.
The airline tells Go Public hackers accessed the Barlow's email, then used it to get into their digital wallet and steal their credit, saying no organization can reasonably be expected to accept liability for the security of customers' personal email accounts.
But a cybersecurity expert tells us there's no proof of that, and the airline can't know for sure if someone's personal email has been compromised without access to it. Plus, the expert says ultimately that travel credit was stolen from Air Canada's system.
Air Canada customers absolutely should be concerned how many other customers may be sitting ducks.
Air Canada wouldn't say how it knows the Barlow's email was compromised, saying that would jeopardize the integrity of its fraud investigations. And what about that mysterious Tokyo trip? The airline also won't say if it investigated the passenger who traveled on a ticket purchased with stolen credit. So, Go Public tracked her down in Las Vegas.
Okay, here's someone by that name.
She says she bought the ticket through a travel agent, but wouldn't provide the agent's name or proof of payment. She also says Air Canada never contacted her. All of it points to major gaps in the airline's investigation, say the Barlows.
My money was stolen, my seats were stolen, and they don't care.
The couple had to spend thousands out of pocket for new flights home. Rosa Marcatelli, CBC News, Calgary.
Weather specialist Helena Mahalik joining us now for a look at the forecast. And man, what a weekend with some crazy temperatures, Helena.
Totally, Ethan. It was spring, but it felt much more like summer this weekend in Saskatchewan, with temperatures getting above the +30 mark and breaking weather records. Let's take a look at some of those records that we broke here in South and Central Saskatchewan. The Hudson Bay area hit 32 degrees. We haven't seen temperatures like this on this day since 2016. It's the same story for Saskatoon and Rosetown, hitting 31 and 30 degrees, but those areas on this day haven't seen temperatures this high since 2016. But the Watrous area that hit 30 degrees hasn't seen temperatures like this since the 1980s. And in Prince Albert, hitting 29 degrees, they haven't been at 29 degrees on this day since the 1800s. So definitely a weekend to remember. But as for Monday, temperatures dropped down significantly in the province by almost 15 degrees, still in the teens, but from 30 degrees to the low teens is quite a jump, but still feeling warm for this time of year in south and central Saskatchewan. A little bit colder in the north, the Churchill region at or around the 10-degree mark, and the far north even below the 5-degree mark. As we can see, Monday evening there has been some rainfall in the province, especially in the southeastern corner near Estevan and Yorkton. But by Monday evening, most of that rain should have dipped out of the province. We're just seeing some cloud coverage here and there. By Tuesday morning, most of the weather should have moved out, making for a very clear night for most of the province. Same thing with Wednesday. We're seeing a clear day, some cloud cover in the north, but overall a very clear day. We are going to see some rainfall Thursday early morning in the north there, but the rest of the province in south and central very clear. Some more rain in the north Thursday early morning around the Larange area. Going to see some rain there, but again, mostly just cloudy in the province, but we're not seeing any more activity. We are seeing some winds though. Monday evening, winds in the Estevan area at around 30 kilometers an hour. That's moving Tuesday evening to around 40 kilometers an hour in the Lloydminster area. And the winds Wednesday evening is going to be more 50 kilometers an hour in central Saskatchewan around Prince Albert area there. And Larange could also be in for a bit of a windy evening. So Ethan, some winds making things feel just a little bit cooler in the province, but things will still be warming up in the next few days.
Definitely. So it sounds like rubber boots and the umbrellas maybe putting away for a while.
Always keeping us on our toes for sure.
Sure is. Okay. Thanks, Helena.
Thanks, Ethan.
Well, many migrant farm workers come to Canada on the promise of a better life. Instead, some are met with deplorable working conditions. It's why 2 former BC farm workers chose to speak out and file an official complaint. But as CBC's Tara Carmen explains, coming forward can come at a cost.
Danielle Concha and Francesca Reyes left Chile, dreaming of a better life in Canada.
I leave my job there because I think here I have a really good opportunity, a better job, better house, better life.
Their first job was living and working on an Abbotsford farm. It wasn't what they expected.
It was horrible to see because the house where we live there was very dirty.
We work 12, 15 hours per day, 7 days a week.
Concha says he and his partner were hired to do quality control of fruit, sort it and clean it, but their contracts described them as farm workers. He and Reyes were paid the same as berry pickers, with no overtime or vacation pay, and then their contract was cut short. In 2021, they were 2 of 5 workers who complained to Service Canada, which launched an audit. Federal inspectors found no problems, but they never spoke to the workers.
So really coming forward is really challenging for workers. The fear of loss of employment is particularly high.
In this case, it seemed hopeless. But this January, BC's Employment Standards Branch awarded the 5 workers close to $80,000 in compensation for unpaid overtime, vacation pay, and misrepresenting the length of the contract.
Yeah, a long time waiting for that.
Despite the decision, the Abbotsford operation where they worked is still able to hire foreign workers. The company told CBC that Service Canada has found our organization to be compliant across key areas and reserved the right to appeal the provincial decision against them. But Danielle and Francesca worry other farm workers are still stuck with no voice.
Many people don't know nothing about their rights.
They're speaking out for change, so others who follow in their path have a stronger voice. Tara Carmen, CBC News, White Rock, BC.
Well, as we've been telling you, 2025 marks 80 years since the end of the Second World War. And while celebrations marking the liberation of the Netherlands have been taking place, people have also gathered in Saskatoon this weekend to mark the 80th anniversary of the end of the Battle of the Atlantic, the longest continuous battle that occurred during the Second World War. 4,400 Canadians lost their lives during that nearly 6-year battle. Stay with us. We have more news and a final look at the forecast after the break. Welcome back. Football season in Saskatchewan is just around the corner, and the Saskatchewan Roughriders are getting into the spirit by announcing the latest class inducted into their Plaza of Honor. Longtime assistant coach Alex Smith Sr. was with the Riders for 16 seasons. He helped the club win the 2007 Grey Cup. Offensive lineman Chris Best was with the Riders for 12 seasons. A first-round pick in 2005, he was part of offensive lines that helped win the 2007 and 2013 Grey Cups. Best says he never wanted to play anywhere else other than Saskatchewan.
The word that I just keep coming back to is just how thankful I am. It was such a pleasure. I had such good coaches, the organization, the players I was with. I was really fortunate with the people I got to be involved with. And so I keep coming back to how fortunate, how thankful I am for everything that the Rider Nation, the Rough Riders have done for me. And so to have this honor is just, it's hard to put into words. It's really special.
The final inductee is the late Steve Molnar. He played 10 seasons with the Riders from 1969 to 1978. Helena's back now. Football coming up, and football weather, it seems like, as well.
Oh, totally, Ethan. I'd say it's definitely the weather for football. We're going to see temperatures climbing back up in the next few days. Let's take a look at how warm it's going to get for Regina. As we can see, the sun is sticking with us all throughout the week. Tuesday, temperatures are still in the teens, but by Wednesday, they're climbing back up to the 20-degree mark, getting into the high 20s for some of the days. Temperatures may be feeling a bit colder, though, as we see the wind and a bit breezy throughout some of these days. Sunday, there is a 30% chance of rain, but overnight, we are still seeing above average temperatures for this time of year. So we're seeing pretty warm nights here and there, with even up to the above 10-degree mark for some evenings. In Saskatoon, it's the same story. The sun is going to be out most of the week, and temperatures getting back to around the 20-degree mark by Wednesday. Sunday and Monday, we'll see a bit of a rainfall, 30 to 60% of a chance, and a bit of a breeze and some winds here and there in Saskatoon. But again, above average for overnight lows, and even above the 10-degree mark, Ethan, for some of these nights. So making for really nice temperatures throughout the province.
Yeah, and hoping that maybe we can get a little more rain in there too.
I'm hoping that rain actually comes through in the forecast for sure.
All right. Helena, thank you so much.
Thanks, Ethan.
And that is it for us. For news anytime, you can head to our website or our CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel, or download the CBC News app on your smartphone or tablet. Thanks so much for watching.